it's treated.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Before the accident, what was your position?
I was a foreman operator,
Yeah.
making sure the blueprints are followed through
Yeah.
for merging old subdivisions with new subdivisions. How do you look for pictures?
Onyx, you can't come out right now.
I haven't even finished the bathroom.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're smashing this.
Wow.
Gotta keep them busy.
She's good at smashing things.
Yeah.
I'm good at fixing things, and because I'm, as she says, I'm tedious.
That's how we work. I smash, you
Tedious.
fix.
I'm tedious.
I don't mind doing that part.
Because after perfection, I guess, I don't know.
Okay, and I had a talk with a good friend of mine, Mr. Jeffrey, and after lengthy discussion, and we always discuss a couple of other stuff, and somehow he mentioned your name, and that was it. Since we, your name, as she showed up in our conversation, there was no any other conversation. Every time we're together, this is about how's Jeff, how's to come. This is a mind-blowing, it's a life-changing, and none other than Mr. Jeff, you can hear from his own mouth. And today I'm privileged to meet him, personally, after a month trying to get, to be here, and finally I'm here. Mr. Jeff, thank you again, once again for having me.
No.
Please tell us, how was life like? What is it like before the accident?
Smoothly?
Yeah.
It was just Natasha and myself just making a life, making a proper life.
I can imagine. And before the accident, you had a pretty good life.
Very active.
Yeah.
Very active. We were into snowmobiling, and Tasha was into horses, and the kids were always sports or camping.
That's right.
Yeah, and it was just happy times. It was just really happy.
Absolutely. And
Dramatically.
Yeah.
Dramatically. It's in everything. How you speak, how you carry yourself, how you look at yourself.
That's right. And I believe after the accident, there was the doctors could not believe the recovery. And what was it like for you during the whole process?
The only thing that was in my mind is I couldn't believe the situation that I was in and how I was treated, having some family members around me, how they treated me when I was trying to take care of them. I wasn't going to allow that hate to be taken. I didn't want to treat Natasha and the kids like how I was treated.
Yeah, that's nothing.
I guess having the people, how they behaved. it was pretty much the way how the behavior from others.
Natasha,
Yes,
thank you so much for your time and thanks for coming.
my pleasure.
Thank you. Tell me, what can you tell me? What is TBI, and the impact that it also has on you? Especially, being married to Jeffrey.
TBI stands for traumatic brain injury. So it's a brain injury caused through any significant amount of force, whether car accident, anything with a lot of force where your brain shakes. And it damages certain various parts of your brain. So every brain injury is different. No brain injury is alike. So you could line up 10 people with TBI or brain injury and they would all have different symptoms or different cognitive deficits.
That's right. So our brains are actually designed. Does that mean that our brain is actually designed and shaped and put together in a complete different way based on individuals and your family history, like DNA or background?
I think yes. I think how you deal with a brain injury for different people also is different for each individual.
Yeah.
But the biggest part is where the damage occurred. The inside of your skull is not smooth like the outside.
Wow.
So there's jagged pieces on the inside. So when you have a traumatic hit, right, left, whatever, top,
That's right.
the brain shakes and then it gets like contusions and, has injury, bleeds, stuff like that.
Amazing.
So then the deficits when you wake up from a brain injury are all different to each person. That's why it's all different because of where.
That's right.
And then how a brain repairs itself as well.
Absolutely. That's also another profound, topic that I want to talk about. Can you remember, when exactly did this accident happen?
May 3rd, 2011.
2011. And then how long did the whole process took, from the accident to the, ambulance, for help to come and all the way down to the hospital?
So he was coming home from work.
Yeah.
I didn't know what time he was coming home.
Right.
I was at home with the kids and I got a phone call. I answered and it was a nurse from a hospital saying that my husband had been in a serious car accident and I needed to come right away. So I called my family. They came to watch the kids. I went to the hospital. They had, he was in a coma. They had he was still in the trauma room of where they were resuscitating him and keeping him alive. And so there was blood everywhere. There's it's a horror scene when you go in there. The only thing is he looked perfectly normal because all his injuries were internal.
Wow.
So really there was no bruising or no, weird limbs or open wounds, nothing. He looked normal, but the surrounding scene was horrible. And then, so they brought me in and they could not work on him at that hospital. They were waiting on an emergency ambulance to come that could handle his critical state. So it couldn't just be any ambulance. They actually wanted Orange to come pick him up, but the weather was so bad that Orange couldn't fly.
Oh, damn.
Yes, so he had to wait at this hospital for the transport to come. They came and they took him down to Sunnybrook Hospital. And then he was in critical care for about a week.
And then during that week, was he in coma?
Yes, they tried to let him out, but he became very combative and aggressive. So they actually had to put him back into a coma so that he wouldn't damage himself more and everything. Yes. And they had to slowly bring him out of the coma.
If the accident didn't occur, I'm sure things would have been completely in a different direction.
Do you think that would have the impact that it has in the relationship with the family?
I think me and Natasha had a very understanding towards one another. And I guess both of us, how we've been mistreated, taken advantage of at a young age. We know when someone's hurting. We know there's a gap of not knowing, because it's missing.
Yes, right.
And then there's the gap after the accident that I have. And then when you hear afterwards what I've done and how I behaved.
And for you to start life all over again, to be where you are now, where did all that come from?
I'm the baby of my family. I just watch my older brother's behaviors and how they treated them. My mother just never gave up on me. And there's no room for self-pityness. Because when you have self-pityness, it pulls you down.
So from a very early on, you were prepared. It's like you were prepared to face it head on.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Well,
and how was the recovery? You know, do you see yourself getting? Are you still recovering, or you are at the point where you feel
I'm
fully
always
recovered?
I'm always recovering.
Yeah.
Always. I wake up. If I go to sleep, and when I do wake up, it's pain. I'm in pain all the time. I didn't really have a turn-off switch of having too much pain. Natasha would get upset with me because I wouldn't take the pain medicine. The pain medicine doesn't help. It just lowers the pain level.
And then it comes back harder.
And yeah, you have to take control.
Yeah. So how do you deal with day-to-day pain with no medication?
If I wasn't taking the medication on certain levels of pain, Natasha knows, I guess, my facial expressions of how much I'm hurting. And
can you recall what, your progress from yesterday, from last week, from last month?
I'm always looking at it. Because there's days where unexpectedly my brain does turn off. I can't see, I can't answer questions, I can't do nothing. It's just my brain, if it decides to turn off, it turns off.
And then at what point does it turn back again? When you feel the switch off?
When the pain's lowered down.
When the pain's okay. So the pains, does it usually goes down on its own? Does it need some form of medication to subside?
If the medicine isn't working, then I start reading. I read to overwork my brain, to take the battery off. Overloading. I have to overload to make myself turn off, so I can deal with the pain better.
Wow.
jumpstart.
Yeah, is that
A lot of doctors they've referred to a jumpstart, making a new wave
right?
on the current. Everything is electrified in your brain, and the areas that have damaged have to reroute itself and reestablished.
That's right. That's right.
You have to learn how to read, right? And that's where sometimes you do see it. You see it a lot. My mother was very educational on how to write, how to place each lever after, how to make a proper sentence when you're writing. So when I go to write now, it's just a mess. And then I get made fun of, which is good fun. It's good fun. But I guess I'll never write the way I used to write. And that's when
Yeah. Can you take us back to your childhood? What was it like for you? Can you remember the school days?
The school days, I was the only blonde hair, blue eyes. I was the only Scottish descent that lived in my neighborhood, and besides they're English, but a lot, my whole neighborhood was 90% Italians. So yeah, no, I was the only, from junior kindergarten all the way up to grade 11. Yeah, the only blonde hair, blue eyes. And for the ones that didn't know me, they already made it an exception that I was racist because I had the blue eyes and the blonde hair.
Right.
And you know, so I mean, I get it how people are very harmful because they were introduced
Yeah, that's right.
to that hate. I mean, being a Scottish descent and here in Toronto, it's, you had to learn who's actually being racist to you because of being white. So I mean, a lot of friends understood. The friends that I had, best friends in the world. I think we saw through everybody. And I'd say each international around the world, like everybody in the world of race, were a factor of my circle of friends in Toronto.
Would you say you had a really happy, childhood?
Overall, I'd say yes. I had a good childhood. Never made as many mistakes as I do now. Because for me to make a mistake back then, I wasn't allowed to make mistakes. Because each brother that was in our family, they went the wrong direction. 'Cause So I was focused on of being bent. This is how you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then the influences from my brothers were totally opposite. I have a tick from the accident that I'm very anal on because of their behavior. I was like that previously in my accident, but now I have little patience. I can't tolerate the ignorance when I'm trying to repair myself. And there's a lot of ignorance out there.
Absolutely.
I put a smile on my face to hide everything that's happening. My mother taught me, you know, that everybody has that expression, you have to earn my respect. And people don't understand where does that line play in factor? You have to earn respect.
Absolutely.
There's no such thing as earning respect. It's granted.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go.
Absolutely. Right then.
And it gets taken away because of how you behave.
Absolutely.
And that's where the term comes in. You have to earn my respect now.
Makes sense.
Because you took it away. It's a behavior act. Yeah, my mom was very... pointing out the facts and not fiddling with them. You can't derail that sickness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
You have a very good relationship with your mom, right?
yeah, I was the mama's boy.
Yeah, yeah, and that shaped you to a better, human, dad and the husband that you are today.
You learn of what you need that helps you.
Right.
To help you, the encouragement
That's right.
of where you want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, can we go a little details in terms of in the trauma department? When I'm very interested in the recovery, part, and
I remember when I came out of the coma,
yeah,
I was like a Christmas tree. And I remember opening my eyes and seeing the ceiling. I thought I was a kid again, being knocked out from my older brother.
wow,
And waking up. And the only thing was, I want to go home. I want to go home, because I know it's my safe place.
absolutely, yeah,
Everybody has a room
yeah,
to go to claim, this is my safe space. I have to gather, I have to regroup. I didn't know I was that injured. I didn't know, I wasn't aware. I went to go stand up and I didn't realize I was paralyzed. I just wanted to go home. My pelvis,
wow,
I chipped my kneecaps, broke my pelvis and two on the left side, one on the right, and two in the middle, your crotch area. And then I snapped my tailbone in half. 6 broken ribs, punctured my lung twice. Something cut my hand open that severed the nerve system, so I can only operate my hand a certain way.
Wow.
Ended up with a nick in the main jugular vein, and then the head trauma. Had nine staples here, and then I got 38 staples that I had done.
Wow.
Because I had heavy bleeding because I exploded or punctured my appendix. And then my lungs were drained of the blood that filled it, and I had blood around my brain and the heavy swelling because of the impact. But I don't remember. I don't recall.
Yeah. I'm sure Natasha will remember. But according to what you heard, how long were you admitted at the hospital?
I don't have an answer.
That's right.
I can only gather if my kids told me, Natasha or some of my friends that know me. I don't remember anybody. I just want to go home.
Absolutely.
I programmed myself. I want my space. I want my safe space. That's where I want to be, and that's where I want to go.
And when this happened, I know a lot of people, will completely throw in the white towel and say, you know what, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to live. Because I can't live. I don't have any more to give. Where does the strength, the will to live come from?
Siblings. Because I already had a brother that passed away 4 years ago from giving up. My mother gave up. My father gave up. I had my dad arrested. You don't abuse somebody. You do not have the right to touch. Doesn't matter any circumstances. Even when your brain smash. You have to dig deep. You don't have the right to behave that way. You don't do harm. If you love somebody, you don't harm them.
That's right.
Especially if it's your siblings and your parents. You don't touch. There's always solutions. And you have to be honest. That's I have a lot of my friends say they come around before my accident, because I was too honest. You don't sugarcoat things. You don't
absolutely
make it look easy, because it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's never going to be easy.
Why would I give an impression that I'm protecting you from me harming you?
That's right.
You hold back. You don't want to lash out. You're growing up with the lashing.
I think I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
So I had to learn what a brain injury is.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about brain injury. It's not something that you hear in the news or that, and it's invisible, right? So people look at Jeff and they don't think anything is wrong, and then he starts to talk, and then things are a little bit off, and then but people don't really, they just dismiss him. Then they don't want to, instead of being patient and trying. But anyway, but yes, I had to learn to figure out what a brain injury is, as well as he was relearning how to read, write, emotions. When you have a brain injury, you have loss of emotional control. So he had no control of his emotions. He would cry for no reason. He would, be angry. He would have flashbacks to being young, or his mom or his family or losses. And these would just come out of the blue. You'd be having a good day and he'd be all of a sudden in tears. And then putting our kids into the mix, for them to learn that their father has now changed totally. From the man they knew to now is a totally different man. Even though there's still parts of Jeff, it's also another person in there. So you're having to work with this new person that's kind of slowly emerging as the coma starts to recede, and he is starting to be able to comprehend stuff. So it's like you're constantly learning as you go. You have to be open and to understand that there is going to be changes and differences, and he has to be okay with also acknowledging his changes, because he remembers who he was. He never forgot who he was and what he could do, but now he can't do it.
Wow.
But that's only because the brain is stopping him from being able to do new things. He can still do everything he could before that he knew, but he can't. It is hard for him to learn new things.
Wow, it's amazing how the brain works. It's like everything stops from that very same day the accident occurred.
Yes.
So in that case, everything that you knew stays, and new things just comes and go.
That's why they say it's better to have a brain injury when you're older. Because if you're young, you haven't had experiences to have coping mechanisms, driving like a car. And once you have a brain injury, you may not be able to learn those.
That's true.
But if you already have it and your injury, you may still be able to still do it.
And then with the healing, with the processing, what is it like, in terms of the diet, the medications, and is there any specific exercise and, that he also has to undergo, that prepare him to actually live a normal life?
Yeah, he was in rehab for 2 years. So he had physio, he had cognitive therapy, he had speech therapy, and occupational therapist for 2 years. We went... in the beginning, I think it was 3 times a week, and they would also come to the house. And so you need a really good team, and I'm always grateful. These are the people that taught me the most about brain injury and, encouraging me to learn, and, that they were able to be lighthearted about it, so it made it easier to go through the tough times of every day. Like we would all summer, the kids had to sit in the van with me while we drove him to physio and waited. Because what do? You have to take him, and the kids had to come with me. They were young, right? So, but they made it easy. They made it lighthearted. They showed me things. So I think it's very important to get a very good team that he likes, that the patient, let's say, the survivor likes, and that works well with the family.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Your resilience as well, and the love the two of you have together is beyond what I expected. I knew this must have taken a lot out of you and him, and for you to still cope and up to today. Yesterday, over the phone with him, he said, "Look, you know what? Everything we talked, it's okay, but I am not gonna make any decision until I talk to Natasha, my wife, and she decide when I'm right, when I am physically, mentally, ready for anything." And it's very clear to see how you two bond so connected, and makes it makes sense. and we want to know your background also. Do you have any, you know, background of
None.
yeah, nursing?
Nothing.
No. Wow.
No. But I did take it on to learn. So I went to, I got a certificate courses they offer at Brock University, neurorehabilitation, and I went to both. And they teach you what it's like to have a brain injury, and what it means, and to understand it, and how to work with it. And that helped me, because, like I said, the hospital never told me a thing. And I'm not blaming the hospitals. Everybody's busy. You know, you concentrate on a patient. But it's very hard when the other partner that they're also relying on to take over when they're done
That's right.
needs the info to be able to take over. And I think if you as an individual need to do that yourself as well. You need to be able to just say, okay, I need to learn about this. Otherwise, I'm going to be no help to him, and no help to me, and no help to my kids, because we're all just going to be in the dark swimming.
Definitely. Definitely.
Right.
And then during your process, on understanding how brain works, what did you I'm sure you come up with so many different questions that are answered. And now, how would you put, how would you kind of, let's say, how would you completely, raise a child? Let's say it's, a child, in terms of giving them the best of life, how they can be able to, use all their brain, right? You understand what I'm saying? Because I've seen when we were kids, they say, oh, we're not even using 10% of our brain, capacity.
Yes.
And we've seen it today, how the world, rapidly, progress in terms of technology, how, just 1% increase in the brain, that can make a significant change. Is there any way that you see increase in terms of, what you've just learned? Is there a way that one can push their brain to actually increase how we perform in our daily, life?
Well, I think, obviously, what you eat also, obviously affects the brain.
Diet, yeah.
But I think one of our biggest stoppers is ourselves, of how closed off we are. Sometimes. I think if you are open to learning, whether you agree with what you've learned or whether not, or whether it was boring or exciting, I think if you are open, your brain is always taking that in, and all that information, even if, let's say, I didn't like what I learned, I bet you within 10 years, that's going to come up at some point where it's like, oh, and that increases your knowledge. That increases your brain power. It's not, I don't think, like how much part you use. I think it's how open you are to receiving different things that even don't interest you.
That's right.
Right? Like,
so where does healing come from? Is it through our brain or our body?
both. I think our brain has to be the part that you have to have the coping skills, I think, to be able to deal with trauma.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a good support system. You have to have family, you have to have friends, you have to be okay with yourself accepting what you are now and who you are now and what you can and can't do now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. And then you've seen progress on daily life, on day to day. Okay?
Oh, yes.
And how was it like, for last year and compared to this year? And also, we bear in mind also there's also age also that also come in as well. So the healing with the brain, and also added to the age and physical trauma as well.
I think it's true. You know how they say the 10 steps of grieving? And they do that with death, but 10 steps of grieving, Jeff also went through.
Exactly, because yeah, we did mention, also that it's almost 3 times he died on
Yeah.
on the operation table, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, they actually told me to call the priest at the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yes. They weren't sure if he could make it to the next stop. Yeah. They told me to call in the priest. If we were religious, to call the priest now.
What were you going through at that time?
A little bit of confusion because reality doesn't really settle in. And I was not going to call the priest. There was just no way we were going down that road.
You did mix the two.
You weren't going to go yet, Jeffrey. I was not absolving you.
Wow.
I had to leave.
But yes, you have to go through the steps. So through all these years, the steps and don't happen fast either. People think you should be done grieving in a month or 6 months, but I think that might be, and even people that have lost someone very dear to them, grieving can take years. But I think when you've lost a part of yourself, there's a difference because every day you are reminded of that loss. Every day, if you remember what you could do, every day life brings up something that you can't do. Like he would like to go out. He would like to work. He cannot work. But that was his passion, was work. So every day he gets up and he's reminded that once again he's stuck at home. Going to the store is not simple. Is his brain overwhelmed already? Is his pain in a lot? Does he have maybe minimal pain, but will he get in the car and set the pain off? So is it worth the trip? He wants to go explore the world. Well, he can't even sit in a normal chair, let alone a plane chair. So every day you have reminders of these are things you can't do. And I think I always remind him, but you have to think of the things you can do. Work wasn't your only goal in life. Your goal was to raise a family, which you still have. And you haven't, been a terrible so that we wanted to leave. He's also, like he said, has to control himself because he knows there's a line he will hit one day or could hit that's going to make us say, we don't deserve this either. We are here for you, but if you treat somebody horribly over and over and over again, eventually they're not going to come back to be treated this way, no matter who you are.
That's right.
So I think it's understanding. He has to have enough understanding to know that, which he does. And I also have to have the understanding that because of the injuries, some days he isn't going to be this husband if we make a joke and for some reason he doesn't get it or it angers him. Okay, no big deal. You have to understand. It's not easy some days, but that's stuff you have to keep in mind. It's every day is a work in progress. Every day. No day is simple.
Wow. And when you mention, you can't go out, you can't travel and all that, is it still the same? That, is he not fit enough to go on his own?
He can. That's the thing, because he knows things from before the brain injury. Like he's traveled to the States, he drives to the States, and he'll go pick up a car part and come back. So he can do that. But I think for Jeff to travel to Europe, where it's a totally different atmosphere, and if it's there, he wouldn't do as well because he's only flown once before his car accident.
Never been on holidays or took a vacation.
So I think that's what I mean. For his brain injury, everything before is okay. It's still difficult to do, but he knows it's there. But anything new will shut his brain down. So going to the airport is already overwhelming with all the people, then somebody searching you, somebody telling you to stop, go here, go there, find the gate. It's very difficult to do that. He needs to have somebody with him. Right? So that's what I mean with he's lost some of the independence. I mean, he could do it, but it may not end well for him.
That's right. And your input and impact, in his life has made a really huge, difference in terms of, recovery. Because based on the talk I had with him, I could distill from his early childhood all the way until his current lifestyle what made the significant changes, and in terms of his recovery. It's come down to love.
Yes.
Purely love. And that's what he was holding on to.
Yes.
And I see it's what also kept him alive.
Yeah.
Because you have to love deep enough and understand that your purpose here has a reason, and then you need to remain so you can fulfill that. We talked, inside earlier on, just briefly, what love truly means. When you use the word love, then stand by it, okay, and present it. Some people misuse it.
Yes.
And he truly is a believer that he's worked here and his life with you and the kids truly represent that. And you going above and beyond and even study and understanding what it's like, what is TBI, and study it and understand it deep enough for you to come out and also give the support was remarkable. Must be hard on you.
Some days.
Yeah.
But
I know when I've touched your nerve is when you cry. And when she does share a tear, I put everything on the brakes, because the last thing I want to see is Natasha.
Yeah.
If she's cried, that means I've done something really irrational behavior towards her.
it is difficult. It is. It is not easy every day. And that there's no breaks. There's no breaks. Even, what are we now? 2020. So 12 years later, there's no breaks. The person after the TBI will change all the time still. So in 12 years, he's changed from when he was still in a coma and the brain was still recovering for a couple of years, where he was in rehab for so long, and then coming more and more out of it, and then going through the stages of the grief. And so you're constantly getting a person that's changing and a person that's evolving, and also having to deal with their shortcomings now and still trying to evolve, a person that's trying to fit into a family that's still moving, but he's kind of stationary. So I think there's so many different parts that you deal with, and knowing that the person that he was before the car accident is never going to come back.
Lost piece of heart, I sought and found you, like a fire in the deepest part.